I think it's a bit ridiculous. I don't know why they're being holier than thou. Maybe it's a legacy of what they think was the past being done to them. It sounds remarkably pompous. It sounds condescending, and they don't have their own house in order. They could have played this game last week. It didn't suit them. There's probably a reason why a lot of the other football clubs in the SPFL don't like the old firm.
Rangers missed a chance to leapfrog Celtic at the top of the Scottish Premiership after the game away to Dundee, Dens Park, Dundee, was called off for a second time yesterday due to rain. Rangers didn't hang about. They called out Dundee as negligent and unprofessional, and they went to the lengths of a fairly lengthy statement yesterday, saying Dundee are this, that and the next, and the matter, quite simply, is not good enough. But then it's come to light that Rangers could have gone ahead and played the rearranged game last midweek, the first available date. But of course, with a game against Celtic on the horizon, a request was made to the SPFL board to push the game back by a week. Dundee agreed, and the league had no objection. So we're still in a situation whereby, because of heavy rain in that part of Scotland, and it's a lovely part of Scotland, but not at the moment because it's chucking it down, the game can't get played. Yesterday, the club secretary at Dundee, Eric Drysdale, after the match had been called off, he spoke to Sky.
I can understand that people are annoyed and are looking at this as being Dundee's fault. What I would say is that from the research that we've done in the last few days, we note that this year's rainfall is 35% higher than the last 10 years average. That shows the effects of climate change is having on it, and it appears that we need to do urgently more work on the Dens Park pitch, and we're absolutely up for doing that in the summer.
So a bit of problem here due to climate change. It's chucking it down a lot more than it ever did. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, Dundee have got a bit of form because of the bad weather, as well as this fixture with Rangers being postponed twice. Dundee have also had home games against Aberdeen, Ross County, St Johnstone called off this season. Yeah. It's a problem, Simon. Did Rangers need to be as heavy in the statement as they have been? Rangers has written to the SPFL, I'm quoting their statement, outlining its position: the negligence and unprofessionalism demonstrated by Dundee Football Club, where they have repeatedly breached SPFL rules, continues to have a damaging effect on the top professional league in the country.
I mean, there's a sense of irony about this, because this is a club that can't get its act together with its biggest rivals to allow fans in to watch the game between the two football clubs. And I should imagine they are probably breaching SPFL rules by not doing that and not allowing an away side to have an allocation, specifically their biggest rivals. So I think there's an irony behind that. I'm not entirely sure why Rangers feel the need to have gone so robust. They may well be irritated, they may well be disappointed, and they may well be playing to the gallery of the fans that they say are disappointed, the 4,000 fans that they would have brought to the Dundee game. But I think it's a bit ridiculous. I mean, I think it's a bit hypocritical. And if we are steeped in substance that they had the opportunity to play the game the previous week and didn't want to, then I really don't know where they're coming from with this. I don't know why they're being holier than thou. Maybe it's a legacy of what they think was the past being done to them by the SPFL, which, by the way, I agree with. I know they had to be consequenced, but I think Scottish football committed an act of great self-harm by jettisoning Rangers out, down, and flinging them to the very pits of Hades for their breaches of financial governance.
You see, Rangers are saying, off the back of the Celtic game, in a week where record TV viewing figures were recorded for a match in the same competition, and this evening's game due to be televised again by Sky Sports, this episode is deeply embarrassing and has been eminently avoidable.
It's a bit pompous, isn't it? I mean,
how's that avoidable if they're getting 35% more rain in that part of Scotland than they normally would get?
I suppose calling the game off, and what they're basically saying is the facilities of this football club are not befitting of a Scottish Premier League football club, because they haven't got the ability to cope with inclement weather. They haven't got the ability to be able to prepare pitches and to maintain these pitches and cover these pitches.
Maybe they're right about that.
Or maybe they are right, and maybe the revenue inside the Scottish Premier League is what it is. Right, we all know that they get the equivalent to a packet of crisps and 2 gobstoppers in comparison to what they probably really need. And you've got Rangers that have the luxury of a 60,000 stadium and European football. So I really don't think it's to me, looking from the outside, it sounds remarkably pompous. Looking from the outside, it sounds remarkably pompous. It sounds condescending. and they don't have their own house in order. So when you're going to stand on a pulpit and start preaching to people about what you think they should do and how they think they should do, even if you've got validity in what you're saying, when you're pointing at other people, four fingers point back at you, because ultimately Rangers, I don't think, cover themselves in glory, as we've just discussed. They could have played this game last week. It didn't suit them because they were playing. And this is me who wants Rangers to win the league. I would like to see Rangers win the league. I like Philippe Clement. I like to see, Rangers continue to progress and Celtic not to dominate the SPFL and to have it opened up wider and the two old firms becoming really meaningful clubs again.
So if you were at Rangers, you wouldn't have put out a statement like this yesterday?
Well, I don't quite understand why it has to be so vitriolic.
That it's disrespectful by Dundee.
Well, obviously you hold yourself. It's right to hold yourself in the highest esteem, but standing on top of Mount Sinai looking down at everybody else as if you're something really meaningful, and I understand that Rangers are a significant football club, but there are ways. This is very high-handed, isn't it? And and very heavy-handed and slightly unnecessary, and you read it and you think to yourself, there's probably a reason why a lot of the other football clubs in the SPFL don't like the old firm, and this probably...
Well, there's you and a big Celtic
iteration
fan.
of it.
Rangers love a statement, don't they? There has been a suggestion in some quarters, forfeiture, that the point should be awarded to Rangers. I mean, you've got to think we're not even mid-April yet. Surely they'll get the game played in the next few days. Will they not?
We're reading, texts coming in talking about that the ground was available to be played, or they could have played it across Tannadice.
Across the street. Well, for those who don't know, Simon, it's a good point you make. Dundee and Dundee United, they've got two stadiums in the same street. Now, Darren obviously is a Dundee United fan, and he's saying, what does climate change have to do with this? Never had so much toss. Dundee United's pitch is perfect and is playable.
So what's the conspiracy theory then? So
would Dundee want a home league tie played at Dundee United? Probably not. Could they play it there? Could they move it there? Probably.
So whilst we're having this moment to share with the unbiased audience that are piling in, suggesting there's some sort of conspiracy theory, what is the conspiracy theory? What is it behind this? Why would Dundee not have wanted this game? Is there something that we're missing in this conversation that they would be better prepared for a different day, or there was something more meaningful? They could have got a better gate receipt on it. What is the conspiracy theory that Rangers fans or supporters or people that are piling in suggesting that this is some form of collusion or unprofessional? What is it that they think Dundee have done to avoid playing this game? Are they not going to play Rangers now? Is that what's going to happen? Of course they're going to play them.
Of course they will.
So what? I don't understand what people's point is. If the pitch is bloody waterlogged, then you can make the argument that perhaps the club should be in a position where they can maintain their pitch better. Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
But suggesting that perhaps maybe they don't have the money or the means, maybe a question for Scottish football per se.
There's Campbell in Scotland telling me at the moment it's being penciled in for next Wednesday.
So what's the problem here then?
So it doesn't seem to be exactly. One wonders why Rangers have gone to the lengths they've gone to with a statement like, the club considers that this matter has been handled incorrectly throughout by both Dundee and the SPFL. But the pitch is either playable or it's not playable.
If I was Dundee, I'd say, and that's wonderful, but I couldn't give a monkey's what you think. If I'll be judged by the SPFL, not by you. Who are you?
Yeah.
You can't even control your own fans. You can't even have supporters come in from another football club because you can't behave yourselves. So let's get you into line. You're a football club that had to be sanctioned, and I know I've just spoken about that, but whilst you're sitting there lecturing people about what you think you should do and what you think you shouldn't do, it wasn't so long ago that we were watching these football clubs argue about the main sponsor of the league because it compromised the ownership model of the football club that had car garages.
Yeah.
I mean, let's have it right.
Yeah.
If you're going to get up on your high horse and really go all guns blazing at another football club, I really do think that you need to be perfect. And whilst I admire Rangers and I have affection for them and I want them to win the league, just a moment.
Well, we've been on to both Rangers and Celtic, some people we know at both clubs, and at the moment nothing back from either. There is Nicky, who's a Rangers fan. Morning, guys. To talk about this weather being the issue here at Dundee's a farce. There's a park 100 yards down the road that's playable. Amateur games were played in Dundee last night. When the first game was called off, it was the only one in Britain to be called off. Dundee have more money on their squad and neglected drainage this season, which has led to 5 postponements. So Dundee coming in for it a bit this morning in terms of why their pitch is unplayable.
Here's someone suggesting that conspiracy is a split on Sunday. Dundee will know what result they need to get top 6. Rangers could be 5 points behind.
Yeah. I don't get it. Rangers are saying it's negligent and it's unprofessional.
They'd know all about that, wouldn't they?
Dundee, you heard from their man, the club secretary Eric Drysdale tells Sky, is because there's 35% more rainfall at this particular time than we predicted, and that's why Dens Park is unplayable. And now we're hearing it's rescheduled for next week. We'll check the weather for Dundee next Wednesday night with some trepidation. Many calls on this. David's a big Rangers fan. David, good morning. Were you due to head to Dens Park yourself?
No, Jim, I'm a big fan, but I live down in Kent, mate. Yeah, no, what it is, I'm a lifelong fan, basically. My father's from Govan, so I go up quite regular.
All right.
I wanted to make a point, Jim, that this thing about Rangers with Celtic, the 5% allocation now has been agreed for next season for
that's right.
Allocation.
Yeah.
So saying that we're not doing anything to actually resolve that is not correct.
It took 4 years to do it. It took 4 years to do it.
Yeah, it's taken a long time, David.
Yeah, it might have done, but the fact is,
it was pathetic.
The Rangers Supporters Association were never willing to give the whole of the Brunham stand back to Celtic supporters, and that's not going to happen. Bisgrove has basically said that. So, it took some time to negotiate, but there we are.
Yeah, but that's another issue,
again,
David. And as you rightly say, to a degree it's been resolved, and some Rangers fans will get to Celtic Park and some Celtic fans will get to Ibrox. That's been taken care of. But on the subject of this Dundee Rangers game, was there any need for Rangers to be quite so heavy-handed in terms of the wording of their statement yesterday? Rangers expects the SPFL to take proportionate and decisive action in accordance with its rules.
Yeah, I think the thing is, if the game, it's okay, say, push the game back the next week, casually, but if the pitch is still waterlogged next week, you've got to remember the split this weekend is the finish of the game. So
why didn't you play it last week then? Why didn't you play it last week then? It didn't suit Rangers to play it last week.
Well, that's the case with any team before a big game, isn't it? But
right,
the fact
but then you take the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, don't you? I mean, for Rangers to be up on their high horse and to be writing this email or this letter or this statement seems to be a little bit rich. And I know you make the point, and you're right to make the point, because we already knew that there was a resolution, a minimum resolution of 5%. But for the last 4 years, both Rangers and Celtic have acted in a way which is not becoming of two leading lights in world football. Yeah. And I also watched the ownership model of Rangers, having problems with even the league's sponsorship because it didn't suit the ownership, because the guy that owned Rangers, Douglas Park, had a car dealership. So let's have it right.
Yeah,
you're either a big football club or you're not.
And that's in the rule. That's in the rule about conflict of interest. The SPFL, Neil Doncaster don't have a conflict of interest, basically. And in the end, they agreed not to put us on any of the Cinch logos, or because
it's small-minded thinking. It's small-minded thinking. You're taking the commercial interests of an owner over the well-being of a football club and the league.
It was a rubbish deal as well. It was a rubbish deal.
Oh, well.
It was a poor deal.
Okay, well, that's an opinion. But what you're doing is you're just basically saying is everybody else is crap and Rangers are great.
David, listen, thanks for the call. Here's John, a Dundee fan. John, what do you think of all this? I mean, it now appears the game could well get played next week, although that's not definite either. What's your take on it, John?
Jim, thanks very much for answering the call. I've got a lot of time for you and Simon. Watch your show a lot. I feel like Rangers have got a lot to say about this in depth at the moment. Rangers fans, as you're going aware, and Celtic fans, and they're always got to say that. I think they act like they own the league and own the SFA. They've always got an opinion on everybody else's club when they kind of need to focus on themselves, really. What I would say on regards to the matter is we need to more focus on our pitch more than the new stadium. Everything just gets talked about the new stadium at the moment. I don't know if you've heard about that, but that's all we seem to talk about. Our stadium's neglected from start to finish in the stand, so there's a lot that needs to go on that. But I feel like if because we're playing Rangers, it's been announced more in the press. If it was we were playing Motherwell St Mirren, it wouldn't be getting that much coverage. But because it's Rangers, that's the reason why it's now everyone's looking at from a bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Dundee, John, to a degree, because they couldn't have played the game if the pitch was unplayable last night. It was unplayable, John, and they couldn't play the match. Simple as.
Yeah, I mean, the club, from my understanding, have had a lot of work done to it and tried the best to get it on. Regards to all these all these people that have got all these ideas in their heads, just like the old COVID days. It's quite funny, to be honest, to see it.
But John,
like,
does your club have to answer some questions though about the number of games that have been cancelled because of the inability for the pitch to be in a condition to play on? Is that a fair observation?
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying anything about like the club's not at fault. The club's at fault, 100%. This isn't taken away from that. The 5 games this season is a shambles, you know. But this is what I'm going back to, the new stadium. The new stadium seems to be the main priority at the moment. There's something from our hierarchy that needs to get looked at. So that's up to them to do. But with regards to the public demeanour of this situation, it's more focused on now that our club is in the light just because of the situation. If it happened to any other club that we're playing against, it wouldn't be the same scenario. We wouldn't be getting looked at. But Rangers, obviously, and Celtic have always said that it's to act like they own Scottish football. You know, if they weren't here, Scottish football would be nothing in all this. I would send them down to England to play in England. I know you're speaking about that yesterday. I would happily see them go down there. You know, they cause more bother than what's worth.
Okay, John, listen, thanks for the call. Mark's a Celtic fan who wants his say. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Good, thank you, mate. What's your take on this? The game that seemingly can get played, Mark?
Well, let's pick up something Simon said. Simon said, who the Rangers think they are. Well, I'll tell you who they think they are. They are the establishment club of Scotland. Their sense of entitlement knows no bounds. And just to correct something else he said as well, he felt they were harshly dealt with when they went bust and put down the leagues. Scottish football actually rewrote the whole constitution in order to protect Rangers. They came up with a 5-way agreement which didn't exist. Under the old rules, Rangers would have ceased to exist. They would have started as a brand new club with all their history extinct. But they rewrote the whole pyramid of Scottish football to ensure that didn't happen, such as their entitlement and establishment leanings.
All right, well, here's a pertinent question for you, Mark. What's the weather going to be like in Dundee next Wednesday?
Well, it's sunny in Glasgow today, which is a one-off, I can assure you, because it's been absolutely belting it down for about 3 months.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's going to be any better. Why they don't just play at Tannadice is beyond me, quite frankly. But
I agree with you, mate. I agree. It does seem that at some stage, Mark, the game will get played. It's as simple as. But if they couldn't play it last night, they couldn't play it last night. I mean, that's...
Well, indeed, and the fact that Rangers could have played it last week and chose not to, and are now writing these, another one of their famous statements. I mean, they throw these statements like confetti.
Yeah.
And just one more final point as well, just something else Simon picked up on there. Obviously, the Cinch car deal upset Rangers, and they refused to have Cinch all over their stadium, etc. But they were quite happy when Ladbrokes was sponsoring the league, and they had bet 32, I believe it was, on their shirts. The difference being here that Douglas Park has nothing to do with Bet 32. It's self-interest. This is what this club is all about.
Okay, Mark.
Self-interest and protecting themselves.
Listen, thanks for your call. We're getting away a bit from the weather right now in Tayside. Shauna, finish this for me. Shauna's a Rangers fan. Good morning.
Hi there, Jim. Hi there, Simon. Thanks for taking my call this morning.
No problem.
So now, basically, I've had to travel twice now up to Dundee, and obviously back again. Obviously, yesterday I was able to turn the car back around, but it's obviously to do with the fans as well. The fans are obviously travelling, and they're not obviously being taken care of. Now, this is twice now that Dundee have called off their game. This has happened several times throughout the season. It's got nothing to do with the weather. It's to do with their drainage system on the pitch. The fact they can't get their house in order. So basically, the way I look at it is it's gross negligence from Dundee. This is now twice it's happened, and I would like to obviously put the point across that it's not a case of just about the fixture list, but there's other clubs coming out and complaining about this as well.
Yeah. Where were you travelling from, Shauna?
I'm travelling from Glasgow all the way up to Dundee to do some media work, and that's now we've had to travel all the way up to Dundee. When we got up to Dundee, the game was called off. I think there's fans that have travelled all over. And basically, Dundee have come out and blamed climate change when you've got the pitch 250 yards across the road that's playable. Amateur football has been played as well. So I think the Rangers are quite right to bring out their statement. This is a pivotal time of the year where all these games are getting played. Obviously, we're now getting into the split, as you know, Jim. We're going into the split this weekend. So there's
But
other
Shona, they could have played it last week.
They couldn't have because Sky intervened.
Say
Because it
again?
was live on TV. Sky intervened because it was live on TV. So basically, Dundee wanted the game to be played at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but this was actually rejected by Sky.
The plot thickens, Shauna. The plot thickens. Shauna, if it is next Wednesday and it's dry, God willing, will you go?
Oh yeah, obviously I definitely will be there. Obviously I go to the Rangers home and away games, but I just think this is now taking it a step too far. The amount of times that Dundee have had their games called off this season, it's a case of the pitch is just not fit for purpose, and neither is the club, because it's nothing to do with the weather, it's to do with their drainage system.